The loudest path to success often carries you away from yourself. The quiet, steady path asks you to pause, to test what you call victory, and to measure it against the kind of person you want to be. The wisest teacher in that conversation is Socrates, who never wrote a word himself, but sparked a method that still unsettles comfortable beliefs. In these lines, we'll pull from his best ideas the ones that actually help a family grow, a career endure, and a life feel worth living. Opening hook: what if the most practical advice for success isn't a to-do list, but a question you carry into every room you enter? Context: Socrates didn't chase applause. He chased clarity. He believed the unexamined life is a life waiting to be rethought. That stance isn't nostalgia for philosophy. It's a blueprint for modern leadership, parenting, and the stubborn work of personal growth. If you're listening with a curious mind and a stubborn heart, these quotes aren't relics. They're tools you can test in your own home, your own office, your own sleep-deprived mornings. Narrative/EX below start with the core claim. The only true wealth is knowledge, or in practical terms, the ability to think clearly about what really matters. The unexamined life is not a parade of achievements. It's a daily audit of your values, your habits, your commitments. In family life, that translates into questions you actually ask. Are we building routines that cultivate attention, patience, and connection? Are we more eager to win arguments than to win trust? Socrates put a stark line before us. The unexamined life is not worth living. He wasn't elevating doubt for its own sake. He was insisting that a life without inquiry cheaply buys comfort while selling growth. In practice, this means naming the boring parts of our day, what we tolerate in silence, what we pretend not to notice, and testing them. Do our evenings drift on screens? Or do they become spaces where the family shares what worries them and what matters most? The habit of asking why becomes a family ritual, a safety net for children and adults alike. Next comes the famous admission that most people misquote but still capture a truth. I know that I know nothing. This isn't resignation. It's a posture. It's the stance of a parent who admits they don't have all the answers and so invites dialogue rather than decree. In a household, that translates into listening more than lecturing, asking for input, modeling curiosity as strength. It's the difference between telling a kid what to think and helping them learn how to think. Socrates also warns us about the company we keep. The quote often summarized as strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people about cynicism toward others. It's a test of culture. What conversations are you inviting into your home, your workplace, your own head? If you want a family that learns to adapt, you curate circles not for status, but for growth. You choose mentors who challenge you to rise above ego and to test your assumptions rather than defend them. The dialogue about virtue and wisdom is not a museum piece. It's a guide for action. Socrates suggested that virtue is knowledge, a doctrine that invites a stubborn, lifelong inquiry. If we know what we ought to do it even when it's costly. In business terms, this is integrity under pressure. It's not easy to refuse a shortcut, to choose the long game when a quarter looks tempting, but the payoff is resilience, reputation, and a sleep that doesn't require excuses. A practical twist emerges when we apply Socratic method to success. The method is not about winning arguments. It's about refining questions until the truth emerges from every corner of life. In the office, that means asking, what problem are we actually solving? And whose voices are missing from the table? In parenting, it means asking, what does this experience teach my children about courage, responsibility, and empathy? The questions aren't a performance. They're a discipline that keeps the mind flexible, the heart honest, and the decisions humane. Now, a turning point in the thinking. You could be ambitious without becoming brittle. Socrates would remind you that being ambitious is compatible with humility, the humility to admit you don't know all the facts, the humility to revise a plan when new information arrives. The humility to apologize when you've misunderstood or misled. This is not weakness, it's organizational strength. A family that models humble progress teaches its members that mastery is a journey, not a trophy. The twist comes when you realize that wisdom isn't a single breakthrough moment. It's a quiet accumulation of small reforms. The best quotes function like seeds that sprout in ordinary days. A morning ritual that begins with a single question can transform how you start tasks, how you treat colleagues, and how you guide your children through mistakes. Ask, what would a wiser version of me do in this moment? Then act as that version, not the version who wants to be right. Let us ground this with a concrete image. Imagine a family dinner where the question, what mattered most to you today and why, is not a trap but a doorway. The parent listens more than they lecture. The child learns that their inner weather matters, and the conversation becomes a map for tomorrow. That is Socrates' method in motion. The goal is not to win an argument, but to increase clarity, to reveal hidden assumptions, to align actions with values. In the workplace, consider a leadership style that echoes these values. A leader who asks the team to articulate, not defend. Their reasoning builds a culture where mistakes become data, and questions become strategy. It's a shift from fear to curiosity, from fixed plans to adaptive course corrections. The same shift works at home. Routines become checks against complacency. Conversations become accelerants for growth. And love becomes not a sentiment, but a structure that supports growth, accountability, and resilience. The sense of connection here matters more than fame. Socrates doesn't celebrate the loudest achievement. He loves the quiet achievement of a mind that won't stop asking why. The message for family life is simple. Nurture minds that seek understanding more than praise. That prize honesty over comfort. That choose questions over certainty when certainty would dull the living. In this sense, success is a byproduct of a life well examined, not a trophy that arrives after a single hard sprint. Resolution/MESSG, if you wanted a single, defendable takeaway, it would be this. The best form of success respects inquiry. It protects time for questions in your schedule as much as you protect time for work or for rest. It refuses to pretend that winning a moment means winning a life. It recognizes that true influence within a family, a team, or a community comes from the courage to revise what you know when the evidence shifts, and to keep asking what matters most when the noise grows loud. In this light, Socrates isn't a dusty statue, he is a daily practice. A practice that makes you more reliable as a partner, more generous as a mentor, and more alive as a human being. The quotes themselves are not commandments, they are prompts. They don't demand obedience, they invite reflection. And reflection, done steadily, produces a form of success that outlasts trends, defies fads, and remains intimate with the people you love. So I'll leave you with a question to carry into the next week. What is one belief you've never paused to examine? And how would your family and your future change if you did? Not with the goal of dethroning yourself, but with the aim of inviting your better self to show up more often. Wisdom, as Socrates would remind us, begins where certainty ends. And perhaps that edge is exactly where a lasting, meaningful kind of success begins too. End of script. Small rituals repeated daily compound into a life that feels true even when success is private. The test of wisdom is not a moment, but 1,000 tiny reinforcements of character. If your family becomes a living laboratory for virtue, and your career becomes a practice of thoughtful impact, in that rhythm, every meeting, every meal, every setback carries a subtle test. Does this choice honor what matters most? The effort to learn, to pause before replying, to welcome a different view. These are the kinds of gains no ledger can record, but every heart can feel. Be patient with progress and relentless with integrity. What small question will you start with tomorrow? Small rituals repeated daily, compound into a life that feels true even when success is private. The test of wisdom is not a moment, but 1,000 tiny reinforcements of character. If you choose that path, your family becomes a living laboratory for virtue, and your career becomes a practice of thoughtful impact. In that rhythm, every meeting, every meal, every setback carries a subtle test. Does this choice honor what matters most? The effort to learn, to pause before replying, to welcome a different view. These are the kinds of gains no ledger can record, but every heart can feel. Be patient with progress and relentless with integrity. What small question will you start with tomorrow? Let tomorrow be a test room where each question shapes a better day, not a perfect answer. Move with intention, listen deeper, act wiser, and watch family, work, and purpose